So, Don Sweeney is extended. Before we get into the video, be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel immensely. I know I'm a little bit far behind in the Edmonton Oilers vs. Dallas series and the Florida Panthers vs. Carolina Hurricanes, but I'm going to try to have a video where I cover multiple games. I might cover 3 games for the Florida and Canes series, and I'm going to probably make something tonight for the Dallas vs. Edmonton Oilers with those 2 games where they tie up that series 1-1. But I mainly want to talk about Don Sweeney, but look forward to those games. But Don Sweeney, right? Let's get back to that. ADHD picking it. Don Sweeney extended as the general manager for the Boston Bruins, and you had a lot of Boston Bruins fans really upset about that decision. And I would say, why are you upset about that decision? I understand this year was not the year you wanted to have as Bruins fans. You missed the playoffs. You're one of the worst teams in the NHL. But after the offseason where he gets the 2 big targets, and after, over a decade, in my opinion, of success, how can you really be upset with the job that he's done? Have they fallen short in the Stanley Cup Final? Sure. Did they have a collapse against the Florida Panthers when they had one of the greatest regular seasons of all time? Absolutely. But as we have seen, those teams that win the President trophies, they can sometimes struggle and kind of fall off the map. So it's nothing unprecedented, even though that was a really, really bad loss. But looking into it, I mean, the Florida Panthers have come to become one of the best teams in the NHL. So was it a bad series, or were you just facing a really good team that started to come into its own? That's an argument you could put up. But when it comes to Don Sweeney, I think he's done a really good job for the Boston Bruins. Some people are going to go back to the 2015 NHL draft, and I understand that's the big fucking talking point, but that's been over 10 years at this point. Looking at his track record, his trades, he's done a very good job of trying to maximize the window of Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, even when David Krejci was still here. He did everything in his power to help that core win another Stanley Cup. Unfortunately, that's not how it worked out. But when you look at what he did, he sold a lot of the future for that cup window, which I think any GM should do, because you never know what's promised tomorrow. You try to maximize your potential for today. You get NHL talent in the building, and you hope you can win another cup. Again, didn't pan out, but Don Sweeney has done everything in his power to make this team win another cup. It just unfortunately did not shake that way. It didn't shake out that way. And I can't really blame him for it. And I think this past trade deadline showed that the guy also knows when to fold him. In a situation where the Bruins kind of were a bubble wild card spot, they were sliding, but maybe a good surge, they make the postseason. Instead of being like the Detroit Red Wings, right, when they were trying to keep that streak alive, he understood, like, hey, even if we make the playoffs, we're not going to be good enough to really do any damage. Let's sell and try to supplement the future. And Justin Brazeau, traded him. You got a piece off. You got Kuznetsov, and who I think is a better player, so I think they win that deal. You trade Charlie Coyle essentially for Middlestat, a younger player, production around the same level, so I think that's a fair deal, especially at his cap hit. And they traded the captain, Brad Marchand, and that was looked at as like, oh, that's a dumb move. Well, now, because the Florida Panthers, as we all know, are an extremely good hockey team, that became a first-round pick. Sweeney's looked really good. And then the Brandon Carlo trade, you got to open up some cap. He's a very good top 4 defenseman. I hated seeing him go, but he gets traded to Toronto. Bruins get some nice pieces back. Fraser Mitten's kind of slotted to be a third-line NHL player who could be ready for next season. In my personal opinion, the Bruins did a good job of selling assets and getting either younger players back or getting draft capital. I think that is extremely important. Oh, and also for when they traded Trent Frederic, right? And Frederic's done okay there for the Oilers, right? Oilers are going on a good run there in Western Conference Finals yet again. But you got a defenseman in that deal who played really good within that system. Sure, I think it was like a 6th-round draft pick. But before the injury, it looked like he could have made the opening day roster for the Oilers. So I think there's a little bit of hope in that regard as well. I think Sweeney has done a good job. And he has done as much as he possibly can to help the Bruins win another cup. And I think the moves he made this past trade deadline, I was really impressed. Most general managers would have stuck to their guns and would have just tried to keep buying, despite the fact that the core of the team wasn't the same. It still was missing some pieces. We can all look with hindsight 2020, the Elias Lindholm deal is terrible. Well, when you look at how he finished up the season, sort of around his career averages for point totals, but he had something dinging up. You're hoping next year he can kind of bounce back. He's looked good at the IIHF tournament. He's looked really good there. So you're hoping that you can get that Lindholm for the Bruins another season, hopefully a better system, a better, more updated system instead of the stale dinosaur you're running. And Zadorov, while I think a tad bit overpaid, is an adequate 5-6, maybe fourth defenseman if you pair him with the right guy. This upcoming draft will be interesting. Bruins are drafting 7th overall. It's an important draft pick. There's some very interesting prospects, like McQueen's out there, who's a big boy. He's a player you could kind of look into. There's other players outside of him. I have faith that Sweeney can draft decently. Everybody wants to mock his success with the draft, which, to remind everybody, less than 25% of first-round draft picks play more than 100 games at the NHL level. There's a lot of first-round picks that don't do anything at the NHL level. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is, the Bruins, they weren't drafting very high usually. If they even had their draft pick, if they didn't trade their draft pick to get, an NHL player for a run. They were drafting in, the 20s and sometimes the 30 marker. To be fair to Sweeney, I think he's a decent drafter. Do I think he's the best drafter in the league? No. But you've had some guys that have hit, and you've had some guys that haven't. That just comes with the territory. A big thing I'd like to see with the Bruins doing this offseason is to embrace some more youth, some more speed. I really would like them to bring in someone different for a power play system. The coach they still gotta find. I'd love to see them get a coach, not a retread, but a new fresh head coach that can bring in a different offensive look, because what the Bruins are currently running is just, in my opinion, stale and outdated. We all want to jump down Sweeney's throat. We all want to say he's the worst general manager in the league and, he's trash, but a lot of fans would love to have the success the Bruins have had this past decade. I think that kind of goes without saying. Sure, this past season was frustrating, and if this upcoming season's another frustrating season again, I could get really being angry with the team. That being said, there's peaks and there's valleys to this. Bruins have a very, very good run. They're going to have a little bit of a rebuild here. Do I think that they're going to be another basement dweller? I don't believe so. I think they're better than what they were. But do I immediately assume they're back into contention next year? No. They're going to need to let some players develop, get some more draft capital if they can, and just maybe make it a good acquisition in the offseason. There is going to be some free agents, but I don't think one guy's going to come in here and fix it. It's going to take some time, and I think for all the success we have seen under Sweeney, I'm fine giving him 2 to 3 years to see if he can kind of right the ship. But that's just my personal opinion. I'd like to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What have you thought about Don Sweeney's tenure as a general manager? Do you love the extension, hate the extension? Let me know down below. Got Paul. See you in the next one.